Well, welcome to another very interesting episode of Thursday Flow. And this week's title is Why Success Still Feels Empty Sometimes. Have you ever worked so hard for something only to finally achieve it and feel strangely flat afterwards? Like you thought reaching the goal would change everything, and instead there was just silence and emptiness after the achievement. Well, today I want to talk about something that sits at the heart of happiness, fulfillment, and motivation, and that is meaning and purpose. Because success without meaning can eventually feel exhausting. In this lesson, we're exploring how purpose gives energy to our lives, how meaning deepens fulfillment, and why the psychology behind this matters so much when it comes to happiness. I remember hearing about a conference call involving Sir Richard Branson and Elon Musk. What surprised me most was not the business success, not the innovation, not the billions of dollars. It was the emotion. During the conversation, Elon was asked about one of the most emotionally difficult periods of his business life. The time after selling PayPal, when he had to decide whether to invest in Tesla or SpaceX. Now, he described those companies as feeling like his babies, and he said he didn't want either of one of them to starve. And that stayed with me, because underneath all the success was something deeply human. Fear, uncertainty, responsibility, and purpose. He did eventually choose to pour his money into both companies and slept on a friend's couch while trying to keep the vision alive. So he sacrificed a lot. And whether people admire him or not, there's something powerful in understanding this. Even billionaires, even multi-billionaires get scared. Even highly successful people struggle emotionally at times. And the things we care deeply about often require immense courage. So, what I've come to realize is this: when we are deeply connected to something meaningful, we can endure far more than we think we can. And I guess I've, really connected with that, with my journey of healing from this cancer. When we are deeply connected to something meaningful, we can endure far more than we think we can. So there have been several times, just to share personal things here, where the specialists have basically said, Margarita, you need to take this a bit more seriously than what you are. It is a life-threatening disease. You won't cure it, but we can control it. And it's been my connection to prove that false with, doing what I'm doing. And I have endured incredibly so. Anyway, back to you and Thursday Flow. So when we lose connection to meaning, life can begin to feel like a treadmill. The next goal, the next achievement, the next task. So back to what sits at the heart of happiness. Fulfillment and motivation, and that relates to meaning and purpose. It's when we totally focus on the goal that once we finally achieve it, we unexpectedly feel flat, very flat, and directionless afterwards. We arrive at the destination and then ask, now what? And I experienced this myself years ago with one of my horses. I had trained my stock horse to pull a sulky and gradually prepared him for the 30-kilometre road journey into town for a local show. It was just something that I wanted to do and to achieve and to tick that box. It was a huge goal for me. Putting the horse in the sulky was one major task. Getting him out on the road facing the traffic was another large task. There obviously were moments of nervousness, uncertainty, and perseverance along the way, but eventually we succeeded. I remember driving home afterwards. We got to town, we went to the show, we participated. It was just wonderful. And approaching my front gate, stepping down from the sulky, instead of massive excitement, I felt flat. The journey was over. And that feeling of flatness totally surprised me. It took time for me to understand that fulfillment doesn't come only from reaching the goal, but from the joy of the journey and all that I had learned along the way. We also need to learn to celebrate the journey, honour the growth, rest, and then reconnect with a new purpose moving forward. And at that point in time, I hadn't realised that it was so important to celebrate and honour the growth. And I think had I done that, it would have made the next short time period so much easier to have moved through. So meaning and purpose are not exactly the same thing. Meaning is the understanding we give to our experiences, the story and significance we attach to what has happened in our lives, the way we perceive things. Purpose is future focused. Purpose gives us direction. It gives our goals a why. And when your why becomes strong enough, energy often follows. Energy always follows. For me personally, there are days where it would honestly be easier to stay quiet, stay small, and not keep showing up online. But then I reconnect with my why I'm doing this. I think about the people who may feel lost, discouraged, overwhelmed, or emotionally exhausted, which was me many years ago. I think about how mindset, encouragement, and emotional resilience can genuinely change the direction of someone's life. And then what I'm doing becomes bigger than Ben-Hur for me. It creates meaning, it creates purpose. So today I want to ask you something. How do you show up in the world? What does alignment look like for you? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And I often get confused with that word legacy. Perhaps if I was to restate it as, how would you like people to describe you when you have left this planet? Not just in achievement, but in who you became. What effect, what impact did you have on others in the community? If it feels available to you right now, I want you to gently close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath in. And now imagine yourself many years into the future, looking back on a life well lived. Imagine people speaking about you. You're floating around there up in space as a spirit, looking down. What is people saying about you? What are they saying about your character? How did you make people feel? How did you help? Who did you help? What impact did you leave behind? What mattered most to you? And as you picture that version of your life, allow yourself to feel gratitude for the person you became along the way. Remember, the person you became was because of your growth. And in that word, you do need to hear stumbling blocks that made you falter and get back up again. They stretched you, your purpose, your direction. I've often heard it called as an expansion, where you go through a challenge and you learn and you grow and you stretch that comfort zone, like the rings on a tree that indicate the growth. I love that analogy. So breathe that in deeply. See the person that you have become because of your growth. And breathe it in deeply. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Sometimes the most powerful breakthroughs are not dramatic. Sometimes they come from simply reconnecting with what matters most. So perhaps today your next step is not about doing more. Perhaps it's about reconnecting with meaning, leaning into a project that matters to you, practicing a character trait you admire, taking one small step toward the future you want to create. Because happiness is not only found in achievement, it's found in purpose, in growth, in contribution, in becoming. With heart, Margarita.